Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Living and Working Abroad webinar. My name is Alan McGoo, Associate Director of Study Abroad. Today, we're going to hear from John Rodenhurst and Neil Hiney, who are going to share their experiences of living and working overseas. Don't forget to like us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, where you can learn what opportunities are available. Our handle is @UHD Study Abroad. If you have any questions or comments for John or Neil during the interview, please put them in the chat box and we will get to the answers and we'll get to answer as many of these as possible. I will now hand it over to my co-host Sydney to introduce herself and our special guests.
Hi, so my name is Sydney and I'm a second year biology major here at UHD, and I'm from Calgary, Canada. I moved to Texas last year, and yeah, I'm studying abroad technically. So I love helping out with the study abroad, and hopefully all of you guys will get involved and this will help you guys out. And I want to introduce Neil and John. And sorry, who's joining us from Turkey?
That's me.
Neil is joining us from Turkey.
No, John's in Istanbul, yeah.
John is joining us from Turkey, sorry. And then Neil is joining us from Ireland. And yeah, basically I want to get into it and ask them a couple of questions. So how about John, you introduce yourself first?
Sure, yeah. So I'm John. I'm originally from Wales in the UK. Right now I am in Istanbul in Turkey. I work for a university here. I'm the Academic English Programs Coordinator. So I manage a group of teachers and develop curriculum here. So that's what I'm doing now, but I've lived and worked in a few different places. I've been to Australia, Vietnam for quite a long time, and worked in the UK and a few other places. So I've done a bit. I do like to travel and experience different places. That's me, really.
All right, perfect. And how about you, Neil?
Hi, my name's Neil. Currently, I'm in Ireland. I am just finishing my master's in primary education, and I am a kindergarten teacher at the moment. I lived in Vietnam for 5 years, and I came home nearly 3 years ago to do my master's. And like John, yeah, I like traveling. I like experiencing new places. I'd try anything. I like playing sports. I play music. I'm a very outgoing and confident person, and I enjoy chatting to lots of people. But I think every Irish person likes chatting to everyone.
Yeah, I think so. One of my best friends lives in Ireland now, so she loves it. She's really outgoing too. So what did you study in university? And did you study in Ireland also?
Yeah, I studied, I think I was in university from 2008 to 2011, and I studied an arts degree, and I majored in English, and sociology and politics were joined together.
Okay.
And yeah, I went to a place called Galway. It's a great university. It's in Galway city, but it's kind of a small city, so everything, the university is kind of intertwined with the city, and there's a great culture down there, and it's a really cool place to go. I think when a lot of people visit Ireland as tourists as well, I think they land in Dublin and then their second place to visit is Galway.
Yeah. So how about you, John? Did you study in your home country or?
Yeah, so I mean, I've done a bit. I got the study bug, I suppose. So I'm currently a PhD student at UCL, Institute of Education in London. So I do that as well as working. So I sometimes go back to the UK and do that. That's what I'm currently doing at the moment: education, curriculum, pedagogy. I did my master's in London as well, same place. I've done a few other different professional qualifications, like postgrad certificates and diplomas, and a few different things that I've done in various places. And my undergrad I did in the UK as well, but that was in something completely different. That was in software engineering and game design, and I did that I did that for like 10 years and then did a bit of a career change, which will kind of take us into the living and working abroad later, I suppose. So yeah, that's a bit about my background.
Great, for sure. So you mentioned you did study abroad, correct? So why did you choose to study abroad?
Well, I was working abroad, so I was working for university, RMIT, same one Ali used to work for as well, and we encouraged and funded to study all the time. So we do different programs, and they'd pay us to do it, which is, you're not going to say no then, are you?
Yeah,
So,
no, for sure.
yeah. So I did a lot of teaching qualifications, like applied linguistics and TESOL courses through that.
Okay. Cool. And then how about you, Neil? Like, what inspired you to study abroad or choose to live overseas?
Well, I think I finished university in 2011, and I think the recession, that global recession there hit, around the world at that time, and there wasn't many jobs. So I did a bit of volunteering teaching in Ireland at the time, around 2012. And I always knew I wanted to do teaching. So that's kind of why I did an arts degree, but I wasn't fully sure. And yeah, then I decided to do a CELTA, which was like a TEFL course, but I did that in Vietnam. So I landed in Vietnam in 2013, I think October 2013. And after 2 weeks, I did the CELTA course with a friend. So that was a 4-week intensive English teaching course.
Okay. That's awesome. So how did you guys go about finding a job overseas, and how is it different to working at home?
I've done it a few different ways. So, I mean, when I was younger, I had no problem just kind of rocking up to a place where I knew there was, an opportunity similar to what Neil just spoke about. Go there, you do a teaching course, and that kind of gives you the network to find things there. Then as I got a bit older and a bit pickier with the things that I do, I'll apply ahead of time now, because you've got to get the visa things right. So there's lots of online portals now that can help you narrow down places that you could go. So for example, for this job that I got in Istanbul, I visited Istanbul traveling back and forth between Vietnam and the UK, and I quite liked the city, and I was looking for jobs, and one came up in Istanbul, and I applied, and that was that. They took you through everything. They took you through the visa thing, all that to take care of, and then they book your flight and away you come. So it's the same really in many respects as applying for a job in your home country now.
Right, yeah, definitely. How is it different working there as opposed to your home country?
Yeah, it's different in many ways, but also the same. I mean, I work in universities, right? They kind of function in similar ways in many places. So the way that they're organized remains kind of the same, but the balance between other things and just the little things that are quite different. When you move to a different country and you work, I mean, I'd say every company probably has its own culture, regardless of what country you're in. Like when you live in a country, two separate companies could have completely different cultures. But then if you go to a different country again, you've got the culture of that country and then the specific workplace. So it's different because things just kind of get organized differently, and your role might be a little bit different, and the expectations on you and everyone else are slightly different. And you just have to sit back, observe, be curious, and let it all sink in, and just learn the rules and play it that way. And then it's all slightly different. Certainly, I'll give you an example from Turkey compared to the UK. So, and it's probably the same in America. Timekeeping is quite strict, and everyone's on time, and things are booked within like a set schedule, and everyone sticks to it. Now, that's not necessarily how it's going to work here. People are a lot more flexible. The view on time is quite different. Same, I'd say, in Southeast Asia as well. And they would have the idea of rubber time, where time's something that you can like bend to your own will, or those who have power can bend it to their own will. But that's something you just have to get used to. If you go there and you think, oh, I must be on time, hey, I'll be 10 minutes early so that I'm definitely not late, you'll be sitting around waiting, because people will come, a little bit later. It's just little things like that that are different. And they're different in all the different places that you might work. So you just kind of have to go there with an open mind and just like observe, see what they are. And
Yeah, I think that's a very good point about going with an open mind. You have to be very adaptable and relaxed. As John said, in Southeast Asia, like time does bend a bit and things would start late. Well, the school day always started the same, but if we were having meetings or teacher meetings in schools, they'd always run on a bit later or start a bit later. And you observe and you adapt to it and you get used to it. It's their culture. They're kind of, everything is a lot more relaxed and I'd say less stressful in Vietnam. But I think it's similar in a lot of places in Southeast Asia. And you just relax and you adapt, but you have to be adaptable when you move abroad to places and not think, oh, I wish this was like home. You have to adapt. And the more you adapt, you'll enjoy it a lot.
For sure. So I know your home countries aren't abroad for you guys, but for Americans and me as a Canadian, that is abroad for us. So I'm curious as to what it's like in your home countries, like the culture, the work environment. For someone who is not from your home country, what would it be like stepping into a work position in your country?
So if, let's say, someone decided to come to Ireland now and they wanted to pursue a teaching role, there's a lot of IT roles now. There's a lot of American companies based in Ireland now. I think Facebook and Google, they're building new factories and premises here, and they're very popular. And we have a lot of overseas workers coming to work in them. Ireland's a very welcoming and friendly place. You get set up and everything is very organized, but I think in Ireland there's a bit of space that it's not kind of, what would you say, city-ish, that it's easy to get going straight away. It won't overcome you, the pressure. There's people are friendly, they'll help you relax, and people will chat to you straight away. Because when you move overseas, sometimes you are nervous and you want to get to know people. And I'd say the Irish people are one of the best for making people feel comfortable moving to another place.
Right. So we do have a question in the chat, and I'm also curious about Vietnam from both of you because you both live there. So somebody is wondering, why did you both choose Vietnam as opposed to other countries in that region? And maybe you could talk a little bit about working in Vietnam.
Okay. Yeah, so I remember as I said, I finished my course in the university of 2011, and then I think it was a recession in Ireland, and yeah, there wasn't many jobs, so I did a bit of volunteering work. And then I was chatting with my friend and we wanted to travel abroad and we were thinking teaching as well. And we just decided to go somewhere different that a lot of Irish people were going to Australia. So we thought we'll pick somewhere different. And then my friend's cousin was working in a school in Vietnam, and all of a sudden in the space of a couple of months, there was a flight booked and we were ready to board.
Yeah, kind of took a leap, I guess, for sure.
Yeah, John, you're right.
So I'm slightly different. So Vietnam wasn't planned for me. So I was going to Australia. So I'd got like myself lined up there, but I decided to do a bit of traveling on the way. So I made my way to Australia. I gave myself nearly a year to make my way there because I'd worked for 10 years in the UK. Cleared on it, sold my car, and thought, I must have been 24, 25 then. And so I thought, I'll see a bit of the world on my way and then this might go back to your old question, your other question you just asked. When you work in the UK, and it was the same in Australia, it kind of consumes you quite a lot. The work-life balance is very focused towards work, I would say. So I thought, I'll spend a bit of time, see a bit of the world, and then when I go to Australia, it'll very much be the same, which it was. And what I was doing at the time was quite consuming. It involved long hours, so that's what I did. And so I spent a bit of time in Southeast Asia, and I went to Vietnam and decided to stay because I had some friends there. And I wanted to spend a bit of time in one country just to kind of really understand the culture a bit more, because it's different when you're a tourist. And I would say working or living in a country for a while really does help you understand the culture. I mean, I say that you really understand the culture if you've been invited to a wedding and you've been there long enough to know, what it's like. So I decided to spend a bit of time there on my way, and then I went to Australia and I got a job similar, so working programming. And it was the same as the UK, really. And, I was working weekends for no real reason and things like that. And I just kind of missed Vietnam. I missed the life that I had there, the people, the culture, and things like that. And I kind of decided that I'd like to go back. So I did a bit of retraining, and then I went back and continued to train from there. So I just kind of really liked Hanoi, the city in Vietnam. And that was an accident because I didn't intend to go there. Just kind of happened.
Okay, perfect. And I guess you kind of just answered my next question is, what aspect of working abroad do you enjoy more than working at home, which you kind of answered with Vietnam. So Neil, how about you? What's something that you enjoyed about working abroad as opposed to at home in Ireland?
Oh, I felt this probably every second or third day, but I think it was driving on a scooter to work, wearing a t-shirt and a pair of trousers or a short sleeve shirt, and there's nice warm air and you don't feel cold. I think that was the best thing for me working in Vietnam.
For sure. And also something I want to ask, since you both have been to so many countries, have you both experienced culture shock? And if so, how did you guys deal with it? So when you hop off the plane in Vietnam or Southeast Asia, I know Australia might be kind of similar. It's got to be a lot different in adjusting to that. How did you guys end up doing it?
I remember when I landed straight away. So I was lucky I went with my best friend. So we had someone else to kind of live the culture shock as well. We got in a taxi and we didn't know if the taxi knew where we were going. And then he dropped us off on the street. We got there eventually. And the traffic in Vietnam, there's lots of motorbikes going everywhere, but they're going like at an average 30 kilometers an hour. And you have to just cross the road. They kind of don't stop for you. You cross the road and they say, just look at the wheels, and everyone just drives around you. I think that straight away, it was just, your heart was racing. It was just so busy. But then the longer you stay, that seems just normal and it seems very easy.
Right, yeah.
I'd say I probably had culture shock twice, maybe. Similar, Bangkok, Thailand the first time, because that was the first big Asian city I went to, and it kind of took me back a bit. I think and I love it now, but when I left it the first time, I was like, I don't really like Bangkok that much. But I think that was more that I just didn't know how to appreciate it, because I do know it now. I think I learned a set of skills or points of view that help. The other time, which is probably a bit different, is the first Christmas in Australia, because it was just different. It's hot. It's not Christmas that I knew from back home. And then I think it probably goes to some of the questions in the box. And then your family aren't there as well. So that was quite a big one. First Christmas away from home, and just that it was so different in Australia. Like, I'd had Christmases in other countries, but I expected them to be different, and I knew they would be, so that was fine. But I kind of thought Australia would be similar, and it wasn't. It was quite a bit different, and that gave me a little bit of shock. In fact, I think I did just book a flight quite late and go in the end. But all the lead up to it, I was just like, why is Santa wearing shorts?
Yeah, I can relate to that. Yeah, because I was in Australia for Halloween, which is a little different, but it's huge in Canada. So I was excited. I was really excited for Halloween, and I was asking around because I met some friends and stuff. I'm like, what are you guys doing for Halloween? And they're like, nothing. Like, it's not that interesting. And then I asked them about their holidays and stuff too, and like about Christmas, and they were saying like Santa's on the beach wearing his swimming suit and all of that stuff. And I was like, oh, that's so weird because it's so different in the northern hemisphere as opposed to the southern hemisphere. But yeah, that's pretty interesting. And it kind of is culture shock. You don't expect it going to a country like Australia either. But that also you kind of answered a little bit, but is there any other challenges you experienced while traveling abroad, aside from culture shock? Is there anything else in particular, maybe like language?
As I'd say, going to Vietnam, and the Vietnamese is a tonal language. It's not really to do with the vocab, like the way English, you have lots of words and everyone learns all the words, whereas Vietnam is a tonal language and it's all about the sounds. So you could learn a few words, but if you weren't saying it correctly, if you weren't saying it a word in a short way or a long way, it could mean totally different. So I think that was tough straight away, and you need confidence when you're learning a new language. If you start saying something and then the locals put you down straight away, don't even answer you, your confidence drops.
Yeah.
But it's so worth it though. I mean, learning the language really does help. It's the little things. If you and you don't really need to learn a lot, but just throwing yourself into a little bit and learning little things, and then you know your first little conversation you might have with the shopkeeper. It makes you feel so good about why you were there. And then you start to learn a little bit more from like the culture and the people and the way you get treated by the people, and that becomes quite addictive and it's quite nice. And yeah, a big tip of mine would be to learn, make some serious effort with the language, both just day to day, but also professionally. Like the little bits of Korean that I learned when working in a Korean school, just to be able to use those with the students and things like that. It just gives you just a lot more. Just makes your life a little bit better and easier, and helps.
And they really like you for it. They really like that you made the effort.
Yeah. Yeah. Then you. Friendships will come quickly, or not so much friendships, but just speaking to some of your neighbors in that place, in the little bit that they're just so happy that you're trying, and you can learn a little bit more about, you can start to have proper connections, and it really does. I think it makes it, it's a good thing, because you can get caught in a bubble when you live and work in different countries. There is just other people so let's say expats, and they have their own little bubble, which, you could go a week without speaking a different language or eating, food from that country. And they're nice and they're great, and you meet some wonderful people and they're really supportive. But really going in and throwing yourself into the culture of the city that you are really, really rewards you. And you can always go back in and out of the bubbles that you like. But yeah, the language is a good one.
Yeah. So what languages did you end up learning? Are you fluent in more than one, or?
Fluent's hard, right?
Maybe not fluent, but you could get by maybe.
So my target for Vietnamese was to be able to talk to the guy when I was getting my motorbike fixed. And if I could understand that, then I was kind of happy. So my Vietnamese got all right. That wasn't too bad. My Turkish is conversational. As with most things, like the reading and writing is easy to pick up because you can study that along, but I still get flabbergasted sometimes when I speak to someone in Turkish and then they speak back to me and I'm like, I do that thing where like 30 seconds later, it's like, no, I know exactly what they said. I'm just not that quick, but it's getting better. It's getting better for sure. And again, so I would say in Turkey, you really, really need to learn the language. I would say that was important. I would say it was less important in Vietnam.
Do they speak English relatively there? Or is it more just you can get by with signal?
You can get by with being very good at charades.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So a little bit off topic, but you guys are talking about each country you went to. So I'm curious about what kind of food did you enjoy the most when you were studying abroad? So if you're in Vietnam, Korea, did you find any of your favorite meals or anything like that?
I think in Vietnam a lot was noodles and rice based, but yeah, down the middle of the country, the food gets a lot more spicier in Vietnam, and I kind of like that because I like spicy food. But there was a lot. Kum Sang Bo was the name of one. Yeah, a lot of spicy foods, and we were lucky in Vietnam that we were close to kind of India as well. So there's a lot of Indian restaurants as well. I'd be a big fan of Indians, same as well as John. And yeah, I'd be a big fan of spicy food, and I try everything. If someone puts anything out in front of me, I'll try it. And I think that's how you get to know places as well. You get to see the culture as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I actually did cooking classes when I left Vietnam, and I took cooking, and I did some Korean ones as well, just to be able to cook the stuff when I left, because because I knew I'd miss it, and that was great in itself. Food is one of the big things. It really is, for me anyway. The different types of food and trying different things really is a big one. In fact, I would say I've probably changed now, that when I do actually do traveling, I'll aim it at food more than I used to.
Right.
That was a big one. Like my cupboards here, now I've got like sections of like spices and condiments from the different places that I've lived, because some of their dishes have become like regular staples to me. And I wouldn't go back. Like, even so much so that I'll crave comfort dishes from those places. Like there's a spicy kimchi soup, kimchi jjigae, that I sometimes I just want to make myself feel better. That's that.
Right. Yeah. Is there anything like unusual that you tried? Maybe you'd try it again, maybe you wouldn't, but is there anything that we would find unusual here in the United States?
Well, I remember one day we were at a local beer place, and I know in Vietnam they do eat dog, and a plate of dog was put in front of us, dog meat. But yeah, I didn't try it that day. They should have put it on another table, but I was like, no, I can't. I have a pet dog at home here. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to.
No, I'll try it. I try it all. I think it's part of it. Yeah, I think I'll try it all, because they want you to try it quite often. You'll get put in situations and stuff with like locals and things like that, and they'll want you to try something, and regardless of what it is, I don't want you to feel a bit rude that you don't. So no, I've tried most things. I've got one funny story. I was doing a motorbike trip, and my motorbike broke down, and the local helped us find the part that I needed. And so, to say thank you, we took him and his brother. So I did it with a friend. We took him and his brother out for something to eat, to say thank you, because they helped us. We had like these roasted sparrows and things like that, quite nice. And they really wanted us to try this. And it's called the 100-year-old egg. So it's like a fertilized duck egg. We didn't know. And they're like, we really want you to try this. And so obviously you do, because that's part of it, and they're really excited about it. And so, I mean, I ate it. Like, first you take the top off, and you have to kind of pour whatever's not solid, and you drink that, and that's apparently nice. And then you kind of eat it with a spoon, and that was fine. We kind of ate it, and I think they wanted us to eat it to kind of see how we'd feel. But afterwards, my friend and I just kind of went to bed, because we were scared of burping, so that we'd taste it again, because it really wasn't very nice.
Yeah.
But kind of just do it and go with it, because I mean they really helped us out, and it meant a lot to them, and it was a really good experience. But you talk about 10 years later or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah. So, judging based on that and some of your other experiences, you both seem very social. So I'm curious, have you made any lifelong friends or even friends within the country? And how did you go about making friends? Because I think that's a big question for people looking to live and study abroad is like, is it lonely? How do you go about making new friends, especially with like language barriers and stuff like that?
I think before I moved to Vietnam, my best friend and I, we looked up groups. I think we looked up a lot of groups on Facebook, and there was foodie groups, there was just social groups, there was sport groups, there was art groups, music groups, and every week they put. They're very good in Hanoi, where we were in Vietnam, for putting up all newcomers welcome. We have training this night. We have this art class this night. We have a music session in this pub tonight, and just get involved straight away. And people are delighted to get and see new people. But yeah, you have to get involved. Just don't say, oh, I don't know, I'll go to bed, I'll watch a movie. Don't go down, and you'll meet loads of people, and you'll find everyone who travels abroad, they're like-minded people, and they're all happy to be there.
It's a very, I mean, it's very global now, the world. And so especially if you go to a bigger city, you'll find people who want to do the things that you want to do. Put yourself out there, and there's always loads of groups. Yeah, like Internations is a big one. Sports teams is always big. Like Meetup is another one. There's so many different platforms now, so it's really quite easy. And then you meet a good group of different people. So they could be other expats or locals that share the same passions. Board games is a good one. You know, sometimes you just go to like they have board game cafe. I remember I went to one in Copenhagen, and you just end up playing like a board game that you like with people who want to play that board game. You chat, and then you end up, you know, spending the night just out, like go for something to eat, and you know, a group of people, as simple as that. Because there's just people who want to do the things that you do, or you like, and try other things you don't.
Right.
And that's
Yeah, I
there's
know.
lots.
For example, in Australia, I went with one of my really good friends, even when the people there are super social and they're really excited to get to know you because you're not from there. So when you tell them, oh, I'm Canadian, oh, I'm American or whatever, they get really excited and want to get to know you. So we found even just going down to restaurants or whatever, just hanging out like in public places instead of just at the Airbnb we were at or whatever, people want to talk to you. So if you're hanging out, especially in Australia, they'll come and like sit at your table or just start talking to you from across the table. So I feel like as long as you're really social or make an effort, people are just going to be excited to get to know you anyways. And
Sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's only lonely kind of if you isolate yourself, but once you start to get out there, it gets way more fun and people are just excited to meet you. So also another question I had, what skills did you develop that helped you adapt to working or living abroad? I know you guys talked about open-mindedness and just immersing yourself in the culture, but I'm curious if there's any other skills that you guys learned.
I would say skills of perseverance, especially when I got to Vietnam, because I finished the Celtic course, which was like the TEFL course, and getting work straight away, I had to be organized. I put my names on websites to search for jobs, and I was going around to different schools, and I just had everything organized with me. And the more you persevered over there, the more rewards you got.
Yeah, in terms of skills, I would say it's more disposition, so attitudes and beliefs and willingness to do things. That's probably key, as opposed to more concrete knowledge or skills. It's your points of view that are really important. The ability to try and appreciate something from a different point of view, I think, is really important. Trying to understand why they do things in a certain way. Knowingness or a sense of knowingness doesn't really help you. And what's nice is after a while, you kind of appreciate both ways because they're both valid and you kind of understand why people do things certain ways. Whereas if you go with the attitude of, why are they doing that? They should do it like this. And it makes it a lot harder. So yeah, I'd say that's a big one.
Right.
I think that makes you a better person as well, because when you come home, then you get to look at Ireland from two ways. Like you look at Vietnam, you look at it two ways then from your home place. Now you look at Ireland a different way, and it makes you a kind of, I would say, a better universal person, because you've seen two cultures, and you realize people are the same all around the world. Like people are social, and
Yeah.
Hard
So,
work as well.
oh,
Pays
sorry.
off wherever you are, all over the world. I mean, so if you go to a different country and you work hard and you try to do your best and try to do things properly, it gets appreciated and it opens doors for you, full stop. And that's a good one. People,
Yeah.
all the places that I've worked, that I'd say actually moving abroad, it will accelerate your success a lot quicker.
Yeah, and speaking from my own experience in Canada, we have French Canada and I'm from Western Canada. And even though it's the same country, I think people in Quebec kind of think of it as their own, and Western Canada kind of think of that as their own. And I know when we go to Quebec, I did French immersion, so my school was in French when I was little, and my parents would talk in English to them, and they didn't appreciate that. But even though my French was not very good at all, they really liked that I was just trying. I came up to them and I was talking in their language, even if it was completely wrong and it made no sense. They were really excited that, you're appreciating that's their language and you're not coming to them like with just a, I don't know how to explain it, just your own point of view. And I find people really appreciate that as well.
Yep.
Even just Canada culture, and I'm sure across the world, especially when you're in Vietnam, South Korea, any of those countries, they definitely would appreciate that as well. So I'm wondering, what is something that you brought with you overseas or you found overseas that you can't live without now?
Rice cooker.
Rice cooker.
I can't even fathom not having it. I've bought my parents one. I've come back with one in my suitcase more than once. Yeah, a rice cooker. Yeah, that's the big one for me.
Yeah, for me, chopsticks. If I get a takeaway, an Asian takeaway here in Ireland now, I use chopsticks.
I still don't know how to use them.
But I remember the first time I arrived in Vietnam, we went to a local place the first night, and we were handed this big bowl of fried rice, and they had no forks. And I tell you, I was very hungry the first night I was there, because I didn't know how to use them, and I was only getting little bits of food. But yeah, that's something that I've brought home with me. And yeah, anytime I get a takeaway, an Asian takeaway, I use the chopsticks. And everyone here tastes like, oh, how do you do that? And I was like, it's just a good memory, but it's like anything. It's like riding a bike. You learn how to do it, and then it's there for your life.
Right. Yeah. If you were to ask for like a fork or something there, would they have it or no?
I suppose the more local the place, no, but a lot of places would. And I think the longer we spent over there, the more Western and expat restaurants opened up. So a lot more places had forks and knives and stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
And you'd also sometimes have the inverse, whereas you'd go to a restaurant and they'd give you a fork and a knife, and you'd be like, no, I want the chopsticks.
Oh, they assume that you're not.
Yeah. You're like, no, I want that. It's actually easier, because if you learn, if you have the bowl there, and it's actually better. That's why it exists in the first place. But
Yeah, one of my friends from Korea, she eats with chopsticks, and I remember she'd bring her lunches to our high school, and she would eat the rice so fast. So I feel like once you learn how to use it, it looks way easier if you know how to use it.
Yeah.
But if you don't know how to use it, it looks so tricky. I don't know how to do it.
I think that was a culture shock for me straight away. That first night, actually, when I remember that, because it was just straight to a local place, and just the chopsticks, and it's just, you're like, whoa, this is so different, because you don't see any of that in Ireland.
No, yeah. Something I want to ask both of you, and I think is kind of really important for people looking to live overseas? Because especially if it's their first time, I want to know what or how did you overcome your initial fears and how did you go about making that happen?
So initial fears of going to Vietnam for me and arriving is it's the fear of not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing if you're going to get a job. And I think this comes back to my perseverance skills. Like I did the CELTA straight away. I started looking for work straight away. And I think people will be looking at you at home as well. And you're like, I want to succeed. I want to get going. I want to set up in another country. Like I'm the only person in my family who's traveled abroad. So you want to be able to show them that you were able to do it as well. So I think the perseverance comes into that.
Let's say if you are worried about moving to a different country, if you do your research on the company, if you apply outside and you do your research on the company that you're working for, if they're a more international company, they'll sort a lot out for you, and it can be quite seamless, the move. And they'll put you in some places. I mean, so RMIT, it's someone's job to help people because they had lots of foreign staff, so they had a program in place. It'd help you go look for apartments. They do all sorts of different things. So if you are a little bit nervous about things like that, you can do a bit of research on the company you're applying for, and ask these questions when you are applying, because they'll probably put you in touch with the right people. I mean, it's big business as well now. There's separate independent companies that can help you do it as well. But if you're nervous, that's one way to do it.
Right. Yeah, I do know that even if you're not going to work abroad, that you can find sort of like groups and companies that will get you together with other international people. So like maybe other people from Canada or just groups of kids, and they can help you out with finding jobs or just helping you find places to stay and stuff. I know that stuff like that exists too, even if it's not necessarily for working. So there's lots of helpful options abroad, and there's stuff set up for stuff like that too. So I think if you want to do it, you definitely can find a way to do it. And there's lots of people that want to help you out.
Sure.
So how did you go about finding solutions to problems that you encountered abroad?
I'd say same as most. Just roll your sleeves up and get on with it. It's and that goes back to one of the skills, I suppose, that helps. You just kind of take a deep breath, analyze it, and get to work. That'd be the big one for me, depending on what it is. And there's always people willing to help, and there's always options. It might seem quite overwhelming, but if you're prepared to put the effort in, you'll overcome most of them, I would say.
Yeah, and I think you can overcome them, but if you get involved, like I arrived in Vietnam on a Friday, and on the Saturday I was brought to a soccer match, and that was a team I was going to play with, and so straight away there was 20 people, and we went for drinks after, and then you ask them a lot of questions about stuff. What's this place like to work in? Okay, we have this problem with our house. Have you had this? And people are able to sort all this stuff out for you if you get involved with people. Kind of means you don't have to handle it on your own. But that was a big help, getting to know people straight away. And yeah, because you will have local problems that you've never experienced before. But ask a lot of people who've stayed there for a while, and they'll be very helpful.
Right, definitely. So what is the biggest benefit of living overseas, and did it open up any opportunities for you?
I think the biggest benefit would I'm after getting, I would say, international experience as a teacher, and then coming back, seeing that on my CV. Like I got into jobs like during I'm finishing my master's at the moment, but I've been working the whole way during it, and people were delighted to see that you had international experience working somewhere else in a different country, and it shows that you were adaptable. And straight away, that's all they looked at. And I've had 2 or 3 places saying to me, look, when I was looking for work or just quick contracts in schools, and they were like, oh, you have international experience, and they were delighted to see that.
Yeah, for sure.
Honestly, couldn't count the ways that I've changed and improved, I would say, from my experiences. Honestly, it's so many different ways from my points of view to all sorts of things. Professionally, though, I think it's been a real big benefit for me. I've had a few breaks in jobs that I've got that have really helped me get to where I wanted to be quicker than if I would have stayed. So just by going abroad, I think it fast-tracked a lot of the things that I wanted to achieve, because I was given more responsibility, or there was more opportunities, or I was awarded for certain things quicker than I think I might have done by just staying. And because I'm playing the game, I suppose, at home, being part of a well-established system where the route to do certain things is set, and you have to kind of bide your time. I found that by working internationally, I've been get rewarded for the effort, and you're ever a bit more. And so I would say that's a big one. But I've also studied a lot. I've used the time that living abroad has given me to invest in myself, which has been a big benefit, because the work-life balance was a big thing. So I had more time, so I invested it in different things. And that, I think, has paid me back immensely.
Right. So we do have some questions in the chat, but before I get to those, I do kind of just want both of you to go over some information about your home countries. I know you did a little bit, but maybe what would it be like? Give kind of like a itinerary or whatever for each of your home countries.
Well, for me, I think you'd land in Dublin and you rent a car, and Ireland's not a big country to drive around. I know, like in some states in America, you can drive 8 hours and you've not even left your state. I think the longest drive in Ireland you'll do is about 4 hours, and that's from north to south. So rent a car in Dublin. You can do called the Wild Atlantic Way. You drive around all the coast and you get to see all the places. And then if you're starting a job after that, it's a good way to get to know a place and get fully kind of immersed in the culture as well. As I said, Galway is a great place in Ireland. That's where I went to college, university. It's a smaller city. There's loads of culture there. It's on the coast. They love tourists, and they love tourists even more now after we get out of these lockdowns as well, which is great. And I think people are dying to travel there as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure, go on, Neil.
And I was just going to say, just on the North Coast, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of tourist activities to do with the Game of Thrones as well, and I know they're very popular. Myself and John did them, I think it was 2 years ago. So, and anyone who likes Game of Thrones will enjoy doing all that stuff as well.
Yeah. Which takes us back to a point about making good friends. Is I made an effort to go visit Neil in Ireland, and he showed me Ireland, which was amazing. We got a car and did pretty much that. So that was, and I've done that with loads of people that I've met all over the world. In fact, you reach a point where you can go to different cities and you've got, you know people, or people know people you know, and they can introduce you. So that's nice. An itinerary of, well, Wales is a bit small, right? Smaller and more rural than Ireland. But it's definitely worth visiting for sure. There's a lot of natural beauty there, and a lot of things for the adventurous as well. Again, you'd probably need a car for that. For the UK, there's a lot to do there. So plan things around your interests. Obviously, London might be a good place to start, or maybe you could start a bit further up north and make your way. Probably planning your fly in and fly out would be a good thing to do in the UK. You could probably if you wanted to go to Scotland, fly in there and then fly out of London, or vice versa. So there's lots to see. It's very varied, but I definitely say don't just go to London, as marvelous as London is. To work there, London's its own little thing, really. It's its own, I guess, country and culture within itself. I'd probably make the similar comparisons to New York.
Yeah.
In that sense. And then so when you get out of London, it's slightly different. And then, but I mean, in the UK, you can go to a different city that's 20 miles apart, and they sound completely differently. Take Ali and myself, right? We probably we're about 30 miles away.
Something like
Ali,
that, yeah.
something like that, maybe less, and we sound quite different. That's it. So like a Manchester accent to a Liverpool accent or a North Wales accent, they're all quite different. So it's definitely worth checking out some of the other ones, because they have their own unique things in themselves. And if you don't want to be part of the hustle and bustle that you'll get from living in London, then you can find a more peaceful, even rural life in some of the other cities that might be better for you. So there's a lot of variety and a lot of good places to work in the UK.
Yeah, my absolute best friend, she came down and visited me in Houston, but she was born in London, and she moved over to Canada when she was about a teenager. And I house sat for her when she went and visited London last summer, well, England, and she went all around and talking to her mom and FaceTiming with them. Their accents are so different, but they're all from the same country. It's crazy because like I'm on FaceTime and I can barely understand one person, and then I completely understand someone else, or they don't even sound like they're from the same country, but it's so different in such a small area. It's crazy because you would never think.
Yeah, that's the very same in Ireland as well. There's lots of accents, even
Yeah.
though we're even smaller.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just Europe is so different from here, and it's so interesting to me. I know Asia is super interesting, and it just, you don't expect Western Europe to have so many differences within it because it's so small, but it's a whole world of its own and super cool. I
Yeah,
noticed
it's easy to travel between them as well. They've
Right.
good rail links and flights and everything.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
rail in Europe's amazing. Yeah.